This episode, we've teamed up with Sky Bet. Sky Bet understands the emotional rollercoaster that's being a football fan. It will lift you up, break you down, and stitch you back together with hope. But we'll do it all again next week, because for all the pain of a looming relegation or missed penalty, there's nothing quite like the absolute scenes of a last-minute winner. Not for everyone, for the fans. Sky Bet 18+, gambleaware.org.
Hello. That was the most cringiest intro ever, but look, I don't care. Welcome back to Fourth Tier Fever. Welcome back to the channel. As you can tell, I'm pretty happy because we'll get onto it in a little bit more detail in a little bit. But Grimsby Town went to Stadium MK, took the absolute mickey, walked away with 3 points, and we're all having a laugh while doing it. And we got Luke to join us with this one. First of all, how are you? Have you stopped crying yet? First and foremost.
I think I've been pretty good, to be fair, by my standards. Anyway, yeah, I mean, to be fair, at 3-0 down, I was debating, can I even show up for this one? Quite glad I can after a lovely little comeback, but I'm sure we'll get into that later on. But yeah,
lovely little comeback. You still lost.
Hey, goal difference could matter at the end of the season.
There we go again. And we're also joined by Jack, of course. If you watched the bonus podcast we released the other day, I didn't think we were going to release it, but we enjoyed it that much. First of all, we released that, and we decided to invite Jack on as a more permanent host. So, Jack, welcome back. How are you?
Yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate having me back. Just about over my day yesterday with the 98th minute equaliser. Again, I'm sure we'll get onto that in a minute. I'm not going to go into it now. And I think I'm just going to enjoy sitting back and watching you two go at it for the next however long when we cover your game. So, yeah, really looking forward to this.
I was going to say, you got popcorn in the background, probably.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like that. This is going to be fun. And you know what? I wish I had the same as well. I should have bought some beers. For what Luke's about to say. We should probably start with the usual stuff as well. Of course, if you are new around here, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And of course, thank you to Sky Bet for sponsoring this podcast. As always, we really do appreciate it. Right, okay, let's kick things off then. Let's head to Stadium MK, of course, Grimsby Town and MK Dons. Both suffered defeats last week, their first of the season. Both were wanting a response. Two sides that are somewhat fancied to do pretty well. One expected to do extremely well with the money they've spent and all that. But Grimsby start the season strongly, of course, beating Man United. Of course, I'm going to get that in there. It's one I'm going to keep mentioning until whenever, really. I don't think I'll ever get bored of saying that. Let's just say, after the first half an hour, Grimsby Town were 3-0 up. And they well and truly took the mickey. In that time, look, Grimsby opened the score in 10 minutes in. Kieran Green, excellent build up to that. And just very clever from Green to get past his man, just poke it home. The second one, about 12 minutes later, Jace Cabby there to poke home after a Charles Vernon shot, which was spilled by McGillivray. And right on the half an hour mark, Charles Vernon with an absolute thundercracker right into the top corner, unstoppable. A bit like him in the game as well. I mean, the MK Dons defense just couldn't get near him. Honestly, he was unplayable yesterday. He was a true joy to watch. And we'll get onto that in a little bit as well. And MK Dons' half went from bad to worse with a John Mellish red card for a high boot on Jace Cabby, 100% red. I'm just waiting for the loop. Yeah, look, MK Dons tried to come back because, of course, we tried to make life difficult. It's neither that or we tried to. We felt a bit sorry for MK Dons. We gave him that first goal 2 minutes after the half. George McEachran certainly fancied it, albeit it was unlucky. And of course, we're into the last few minutes of the next day. I know with Lemonhay Evans scoring completely unmarked at the back post and heart in mouth moment as. Thankfully, that bicycle kick just went over the crossbar. We managed to hold out for 3-0 points. Luke Payne, you've been officially slapped by the fish. How does it feel?
Well, I'll tell you what, let me praise your lot first before I start talking about my lot, because otherwise people will go on at me in the comments saying I don't give teams credit. I do think Grimsby are probably by far the best team we've faced so far this season. You moved the ball very, very quickly, certainly in comparison to anyone else we've played. And, this is the first time this season I can say, you know what, we've played a good team. We deserve to lose that. I know Walsall fans are going to be like screaming at me right now for that, but yeah, I think you were levels above them, and yeah, like I said, I do obviously have problems with the way we set up for that game, as I do think we could have, made it closer than it was. But I think we do have to give you guys a lot of credit for the way you played. And when you're 3-0 up, ultimately you can take your foot off the gas a little bit at half time. Although I am quite happy with how we did in that second half. But I'll get onto that in a minute. Well, as I mentioned, the setup for this game totally wrong. I don't know why we decided to swap formation. First time we've done that this season. Swap from the 4-3-3 that we've been using the entire time to a 4-4-2. We decided to play Luke Offord at right back, even though he's a centre back, and then play our right back that we just signed to play right back. We played him on the wing for some strange reason. And
masterclass right there.
Yeah, well, just the whole formation as well, because we've said on this podcast before, Grimsby don't like crosses. So let's use a formation where our wingers are going to have to sit deeper and have to work harder to get into positions, make it make sense. Yeah, I think it was sort of a bizarre tactical setup, and we were punished very, very quickly for it because, well, one look at the right side of the fence kind of tells you everything. I think Offord is definitely to blame for 2 of the goals. I'd say plays a part in probably the opener as well. He's not the only one, but he was sort of like a common denominator. I mean, that first goal with half of our defences pressed for for some reason, needlessly, got in behind. Fair play to Vernon for what was a very good ball in. Does it that little shimmy thing that he did for all 3 goals, actually. Which, again, a little bit disappointing because Offord saw that happen and then proceeded to get beaten by it twice in the space of about 6 minutes. So many questions over what he was doing there. And, well, it says enough that he was taken off after, I think 35 minutes. And then obviously you have the whole thing with the sending off, which typically happened a minute after we took off our other defender. So that kind of summed it up. Personally, disagree with it. I can appreciate that it was a high boot and Mellis shouldn't have done it, but at the same time, not even remotely close to being any contact. And even if you do give that one, I think you've kind of got to give the other one later in the game rather than just not giving anything at all. However, I will say refereeing decisions, as pathetic as he was, it's not the reason we lost the game. But yeah, it's just one of those where, well, we've gone on about EFL referees already quite a lot this season, but Oliver Mackey, yeah, good luck to whoever has him next, is all I'll say. Yeah, so, and then I think he missed what was supposedly a blatant handball as well, that would have given us a penalty, but is what it is. Some refs lack integrity, but there you go. Anyway. No, like I said, not the reason we lost though. For me, it was more down to the tactical setup, and you guys took full advantage of that. So credit to you. However, do want to praise us for the second half. I know you guys took your foot off the gas, obviously, so it made it a little bit easier for us. But I think once we shifted to the 5-3-1, playing 3-3 in midfield rather than 2-3, which clearly doesn't work. Having 3 in midfield, I think that did us a lot of favours. Obviously, the tempo of the game dropped quite a lot. First goal, I know you're saying, oh yeah, you kind of let us have it. I think it's one of those where, this way, if Macron doesn't play it, Lemonhay Evans is right there and he's going to smack it into the back of the net, like from 2 yards out. Like, it was going in regardless, in my opinion. And then well taken second goal as well from Lemon, little chest and volley off of Patterson's long throw. Shame that we couldn't quite get that final goal. I mean, if Sanders had, like our 6'5" centre back, had scored an overhead kick in the last second, that would have been utter scenes. But not to be. But like I said, in terms of damage limitation, you know, I don't think there are many teams that could be 3-0 down, man down, and bring it back quite the way we did. You know, I think we made the most of our chances. We obviously didn't get many, but we made the most of them. And like I said, that extra 2 goals on the goal difference come the end of the season, that could be absolutely huge for all we know. We don't know how close it's going to be. Obviously, it's way too early. But no, it's a commendable fight back, but it's just a shame that everything happened in the first half. Otherwise, it might have been a better game.
I mean, the damage was really done then, wasn't it? But look, you've mentioned it from an MK Don's point of view. I'll go and mention this from a Grimsby point of view. I'll stop laughing at you properly after I've done this, and then I'll probably resume afterwards because it's funny either way. I mean, look, I was speaking to you before the game anyway. I'd have been more than happy with the point. I'd have snapped your hand off for it. I think we knew what sort of test we were coming up against. Obviously, with MK Dons, I mean, of course, them losing last week would have sort of given maybe a little bit of a kick up again, that they wanted a response. But then again, so did we after losing to Bristol Rovers. I said to you, I think we probably did enough to get something from the game, and I stand by that. But the first half really shocked me. It really did shock me. Not just the way we set up to play, because as much as you could probably say MK Dons, you know, Paul Warne set his team up wrong, or they weren't at it for one reason or another, we were absolutely outstanding with the way we moved the ball, the way we were getting men up, the way we were pressing. It was incredible. I mentioned Vernon. The amount he had the whole freedom of MK in that first half, absolutely full of it. And I know you said that Offord was at right back or whatever, but even just no one could get near him. Absolutely no one. It's the same with McEachran in midfield. They just seem to all know their roles really well, and the goals. The first and the third especially. I mean, that finish from Vernon is top draw. If we're picking out some, if Mo Salah did that in the Premier League, it's one we'll rave about. It is just perfectly right in the top corner. Truly, truly unsavable. And you know, we were 3-0 up before the red card as well. So you can't have the excuse that, you know, the red card changed things, because we were just so dominant. And even at the last 10 minutes or so since then, you were seeing like Harvey Rogers do like back heels and stuff like that. You were seeing things you don't really expect to see players do. In terms of a first half performance, that's right up there in Manchester United, and that's also right up there with the best I've ever seen. Genuinely, as much as you can have your faults about MK Dons and whatever, we was absolutely faultless. It was the perfect half. And also sort of half in which I think, if you're certainly a Grimsby fan, but I think even if you're looking at it from an outside perspective, if you're another fan of a League Two club, you're seeing Grimsby 3-0 up at MK Dons, favourites for the league. They've spent a lot of money. You're probably going at it and thinking, right, okay, Grimsby are no mugs here. We are no mugs. And when I say we're a good side, I mean it. Because, look, I see some absolute dross at Town. I know what it's like being in non-league, being right at the low end of League Two. You know, we've seen some terrible squads. This squad excites me, and it really does. There's and the scary thing about it, I keep saying it, we've got some quality to come back as well into the frame with the amount of injuries. You know, we're not even close to our potential. It just seemed like everything clicked first half. It was a real joy to watch, and we thoroughly deserved to be where we were. Second half, yeah, we took our foot of the gas. I was speaking to my mates at halftime, thinking, right, if MK maybe get one goal, it sort of changed it a little bit, especially if it was early. I mean, 2 minutes. I mean, it couldn't have been more true. When you're thinking, right, okay, if even with 10 men, if there's maybe a side that's got the quality to come back, it is MK Dons. And if there's a side that is very capable of throwing a game away from this position against 10 men, it is Grimsby Town. So you look at it from two minds. But other than that first 5-10 minute spell, it was unfortunate the first goal actually, although we didn't stop the cross. It sort of come off Warren and then gone in off McEachran. It was really unfortunate. But other than that, we were back to controlling the game again. We weren't really threatened at all. We were back to being, just really cool, calm in the ball. And we did drop a gear in the second half. And I've seen some disappointing reaction because of it. I don't think it's as bad as what some people are suggesting at all. Because truth be told, MK Dons didn't really do a great deal in that second half. Yes, they did well to call it back. The second goal is awfully defended, I'll be honest. And I think we could have done without the nervy finish. But look, if he'd have offered me 3 points at the start of yesterday, I'd have absolutely snapped your hand off for it. Yes, there's stuff to work on in the second half. And I think Dave Arthur post-match said that actually the players are disappointed in the changing room. I love that. That's our mentality now. And that's how far we've come as a team. If we're disappointed, yes, we've won the game, but how we've performed in that second half, then I've got full faith in this team and I've got full faith in this manager. But look, there were so many good performances out there, and it's hard to really criticise them too much. Yes, there's stuff we can work on, but that first half was everything I needed to know to suggest that I think we'll be right up there this year. I've got absolutely no qualms about it. Yesterday looked like a side that will be in the top 7 minimum. Absolutely minimum.
Top 3.
And look, I don't really want to come across as big-headed. I'm just seeing from genuinely what I saw. I couldn't honestly. I'm just so in awe about it. Yes, MK were poor. That helped things. But in terms of how we attacked it, how we pressed, and some of the quality of moves that we had, and the goals, and to be fair, the goals we scored was genuinely phenomenal. But we can't really rest on that now. We've got a full week now. Cambridge at home next week. And we've got to try and build on that now. But yeah, absolutely delighted we've walked away with 3 points because we knew it was going to be a tricky game going into it. And I feel like we deserved it in the end, just on that first half alone, really. So, yeah. How's that, Luke? Jack, just very quick, just your thoughts. What did you sort of make of it? Because you're probably looking at it 3-0 at Grimsby after the first half an hour away at MK Dons. I mean, I'd imagine we've let a lot of people's accas down that day. Let's just put it that way.
I would imagine you have. Yeah, obviously I get to look at this as a neutral, and I've clearly not done too much on this because knowing that you two, having been there, we're gonna go into it in a lot of depth. But said on Thursday, I think Dave Artell's probably one of the best sort of managers tactically in the league, and I think that probably showed. Whilst I think Paul Warren's probably made an error with the starting team, I think Artell's one step ahead of most of the managers in the league. I had it as a tight draw. Clearly 3-0 at half time was a bit mad. Like we were all kind of sat there looking at our phones while we were sort of waiting for the late kickoff at Bromley, and we're thinking, Christ, but 3-0 at half time. I honestly thought it was almost like the app wasn't showing a red or 2 reds that we we all thought we were missing something. It was crazy. But yeah, I mean, removing the defensive problems and the issues that you were talking about, Luke, with the setup, I think a player like Vernon with that confidence, it's going to be a nightmare for anybody, especially at this level. I think when you've got those sorts of players that are able to do what he can do, fully fit, fully confident. Yeah, I think that was just his game, wasn't it? It was one of those he looked unplayable from what I've seen. The red card was obviously a big deal. I could see why it was given based on what I've seen. We're just looking at highlights, but I can also see why it'd be annoying because when you're the home fans and you're seeing somebody go down and they haven't been touched, but the referee's not got a chance, has he? Haven't seen the one in the second half, so I can't comment on that. Love a goal from a long throw, Luke. So buzzing with that. That was beautiful. This is exactly the sort of thing that we like watching when we're down at Priestfield. Yeah, amazing result for Grimsby. Doesn't make me think MK Dons are any less likely to storm the league, to be perfectly honest with you. I still think there's going to be a run when everybody's back fit, once Paul Warren's got in got into them all and they all know what they're doing. I still think there's going to be a run that's going to strike fear into everybody in the league. I think everybody's going to, whenever they're playing MK Dons at some point, whether it will be sort of more towards the winter. I still think MK will go for it, but great for Grimsby. I agree, Luke, probably top 3 based on not just that performance, but I also think, and again, I mentioned it Thursday, but the season they had last year, it really set Grimsby up for this season. And I think recruitment wise, they've been really, really good. I won't keep going on about Artell, but I think it's clear, and I think top 3 will be the aim. Yeah.
Don't scare me like this. This is not normal. It's just not normal.
Hey, I said it after the United game. That one game alone, the fact that if you can beat them, you're not going to be worried about having to face an MK Dons, and obviously it shows.
No fear.
I genuinely think you're going up, and I'm confident enough to call that now. Whether it's autos or playoffs, whatever it may be, I think you're up.
Right. Okay. I'm just trying to keep grounded as best I can, but it's also quite hard to not get carried away from what I've seen so far this year. But we still haven't been outplayed by a team yet at all. And just one more thing I'll say, please, Charles Vernon, stay fit. Just please. Because, the League 2 Robin, by the way, cuts inside, spats in the top, spams. Slams. Yeah, I sort of lost my words there. Right in the top corner. Oof. I've been watching that goal quite a lot today.
I'd say the only other thing to watch out for is going to be movement in the League 1 managerial market, but I'm not going to go any more in on that.
Don't you dare.
That's all I will say. That's all I'll say.
It's a good job we tied ourselves down there.
Yeah.
We tied ourselves down this summer, so hopefully that's a positive. We'll try and keep on to it as best we can. But we're going to move on. I think we've discussed that a fair bit, but that was good because I think we needed to. Cheers, Luke. Thanks for the 3 points. Right, okay, let's move on. Let's go to a derby, actually. Well, what it claimed to be a derby. Newport County played Bristol Rovers. Newport not having the best of times at the minute. I think 4 straight defeats in a row coming into this game. Bristol Rovers had picked up from their slow start of the season, picking up back-to-back wins. Not really much to say in the first half. It was a bit of a dull affair, but Bristol Rovers ran into a 3-0 lead. Luke Thomas with a brace alongside a goal from Ellis Harrison. I think from what I've seen already, I don't think Nick Zanev will have an afternoon to remember, and I think he'll probably want to forget straight away, especially the second goal, where he's just giving it straight to Thomas Wright on a plate. Newport sort of a little bit of a spirited comeback. That Kai Whitmore goal is a really nice finish from him, and Apoku, the new signing, got another one back in the 89th minute to maybe set up a grand finish, make it nervy for Bristol Rovers, a bit like what we did at MK Dons. But it's the gas that hold on. It's their 3rd straight win, 5 straight defeats for Newport County. We'll get into Newport because there's stuff I want to have a look at. But Bristol Rovers victorious, 3 wins from 3, really starting to find their feet now. And well, we say 3 from 3. 3 wins and a draw in their last 4 league games, really starting to pick up now after the slow start that they've had. Yeah,
they are. And, I know they started badly, but I kind of had a feeling it was coming. You look at some of the names in that squad, chances are it's only a matter of time until things start to pick up. That first half, I think across the board for both teams, just very poor. It was a combined 6 shots with just 1 on target, which I think may have been Newport's if I remember correctly. But then they just kind of stepped it up again, and that first goal was a total scramble in the box, but persistence pays off. And then from there they've had plenty of chances. They had we're talking about Nick Zanev just then. I think there was another one that did end up in the back of the net, but got called back for handball as well. So, it could have been a whole lot worse before it got better for Newport. But, I think it was a strong second half performance from Bristol Rovers. A little bit disappointing that they made it quite as hard for themselves as they did at the end. I think it would have been, obviously it would have been better if they'd just kept things up, kept the tempo up, kept attacking, and just held Newport at arm's length. But they did it the hard way. But the important thing is they did it. And they do have the 3 points, and the momentum carries on. It's another win, as you say, and that's going to stand them in good stead for the long term.
I think the thing I'm pointing out. Oh no, sorry, you go, Jack.
No. Yeah, to be honest, I was just gonna kind of back it up. I think I completely agree. The thing that was frustrating watching that from a Newport perspective is that I just feel like it was entirely their own doing, because that the first goal was a scrappy goal, but it's a goal that happens in League Two. Yeah, it happens every week for different teams. It's just one of those. And the thing that frustrates me the most, and I don't profess, I don't watch Newport every week. I don't know if this is how they're being told to play, but it's the response that frustrates the life out of me. I just feel like teams at that end of the table on the run that they're on, I just think you're putting yourselves under way more pressure than you need to. And I think I feel for Zanev a little bit, because he's had a relatively decent, uneventful game up to the first goal, and then straight from kickoff, it's trying to do something silly, and then I think the second goal, his confidence is then just through the floor. And I honestly think that third goal, if he's confident and that they've had a decent game, I think he just deals with it. I don't think it's even a problem. But they've killed the goalkeeper. Stop trying to play out when you are where you are. Play the situation. Don't just keep trying to play the same way and play yourself out of it. But I mean, flip side though, I mean, I was watching it and I was writing my notes as I'm watching it, and I ripped them up at the end of the second half, because I thought, well, there's actually some real pros and cons for both teams in the end. Because whilst, yes, Newport have lost the game 3-2, it was kind of all of their own doing. It's not like they were absolutely battered with quality, and it's not like Bristol Rovers were playing through them and dominating them. It's 3 really just poor errors. And then they've shown enough spirit and determination and fight back to then score 2 goals at the end. Two good goals as well. I think Jed Garner, if he gets more on that header at the end as well, you're looking at maybe a 3-3, and you think, well, there's something to grab onto there. I know Darryl Clark, I think he's taken responsibility for the last 10-15 minutes in his post-match interview, which is, I think he's going to say that because, again, they're on this good run and they're riding a wave at the moment, and it's great because their form seems to be turning and they are gradually, steadily getting better, and it's good for them. But I hope Newport, for morale, I hope it's not going to have too much of a negative impact. I don't think it needs to. I think they just need to, in those moments, manage the game better. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've taken away from this, actually, Kieran mentioned it in one of the other groups, was actually Newport starting lineup. Really, when you look at it, it looked like they were playing a 5-3-2 with 7 centre-backs in it, 2 centre-backs in midfield. When they've even got the likes of Cameron Antwi on the bench. I think Michael Spelt, oh no, he's more of a forward, isn't he? But I mean, Kai Whitmore, there's another midfield there. And yet they've gone for Kieran Brennan and Cameron Evans midfield alongside Braybrooke. No, Glennon hadn't really had much of a sniff in terms of the season, but I mean, he played a big part in their first goal with that cross. But you can look at this however you really want. I'm not really. I'm not sure on the plan at Newport at the minute. I'm just not sure. 5 defeats in a row, and I think you've got every right to question it, especially when last year was equally as poor. I think you've really got to start to look at the bigger picture now. After not a strong start, I mean, look, a win and a draw in their first 2 games, you're thinking, right, okay, solid start here. And an away win as well, which I know that Newport has struggled with last season. And then, 5 straight defeats, albeit, yes, okay, they've played some tough teams in there. They've played Grimsby, they've played Salford, they've played MK Dons, sides that you probably expect to be right up there. Cambridge are a half-decent side as well, and you probably think that Bristol Rovers are going to be up there as well. So on one side, you could probably say, yeah, they've played some tough teams in there. But to be fair, you do look at some of them. I mean, you do look at the games just in general. A lot of the stuff is actually their own doing when you really think about it. I mean, Grimsby lost to a last minute winner. To be fair, they did hold out as long as they could, and they probably should have lost the game by more. Salford, they lost to, I think it was a corner. I mean, when you've got someone like a Luo who's absolutely massive, you get that. And MK Dons, I mean, they missed the penalty in the game. You could probably defend him, in which the MK penalty was harsh. but they could have got something out of that and didn't quite, albeit not too bad. Cambridge last week looked, well, not great, truth be told. And then this one, I totally agree with Zanev. I think his confidence completely shot to bits after the after the first goal, and obviously the sort of mistake after that. It was your warning sign right there for the second goal, and then obviously the third goal, in which he's in no man's land, to be fair to him. And it's a shame because he started the season incredibly well as well. He's been by far and away Newport's best player. It was quite interesting to me that Kieran did say if Jordan Wright was in goal, it would have been different, probably. But also, I don't really rate him as a keeper. Like I said, I mean, look, spirited fight back at the end, but again, just too little, too late. And I mean, Tranmere and Gillingham up next. I mean, Tranmere have not had the best of results at them, in the past couple, and then they're coming up against Gillingham after that, who are still unbeaten. But we'll get to that. And they've got Chesterfield and Swindon after that. So again, they've got some tough games coming up. And to be fair, and to be quite honest, I'm struggling to see where the points are coming from in those games. I just don't know the direction in which Newport are going at the minute, and it really does concern me.
Yeah, I think it's almost the mentality of the way they're setting up. It certainly feels like even at home sometimes they're maybe just playing for a point. It's like, oh, Bristol Rovers better play for a point. Oh, MK Dons better play.
It's your biggest indication for me, even if they're in midfield.
You just can't at home. You try and win games. Like you have to at least show some sort of effort. And yes, some of these attacking players are out of form or not in their best spells or whatever, but you've got to give them the chance to flourish and have faith in them to actually go and make something happen at the other end of the pitch. You can't just have two blocks at the back and be like, right, we'll hold out for as long as we possibly can and hope that we somehow get something from the game without actually trying to create anything. There's a difference between sitting back and playing for counterattacks the way that someone like a Walsall might, and just sitting back and praying, which is what I think Newport are doing at the minute. Then there needs to be a shift in mentality, because if you keep playing like that, the mentality of the players will then start to break, and potentially signs of that happening already with the keeper.
That's the biggest concern at that end of the table. I'm sure I'll bring this up a couple of times over the course of the evening, but I've watched it the last couple of years. Like, it's so quick that mentality drops, and it's so hard for players, especially at this level. It's really hard for them to have the opportunities to then get that back. It's really difficult to do, and when you're not scoring goals and you're not threatening teams, defenders and goalkeepers, it's so difficult. It's so tough for them. So, yeah, I completely agree. I think they need to change it up, and they need to start trying to at least turn in some losses into draws at the very least, because they're on a bit of a slippery slope at the minute.
And to be fair, I can't say it's much surprising. That's the thing about it for me. Right, let's move on. Let's have a look at Salford, because they beat Tranmere 3-1. Of course, another one for the FTF games. Jake overcoming Jack Walton. In this case, I now have to specify the last name because
sorry about that.
No, it's all right. Salford. Look, I really like what Salford are doing at the minute. And going into these sorts of games, I mean, look, they won 3-1, and again, they look like they were the best team in that game. They look totally dominant. I think you probably do question, some of their finishing at times, but I mean, in this game, look, they won 3-1, so there's not really much to complain about. I mean, Luke Garber from the penalty in the second half. Again, not really much to really say in the first half, but second half, I mean, look, Luke Garber opened up with a penalty, looked it. And of course, a man in form at the minute is Amari Patrick. Another goal for him. Again, not one of his blockbuster goals from about 30 yards out, but he's still got so much to do to dispossess the ball back from the ball back from the Salford player back to the defender, just to nick it off him and to go around the keeper. He's a joy to watch. I keep banging the drum about Amari Patrick, but he's a phenomenal footballer, and he just oozes class. That's the big thing I can take away from that. And I feel I feel like at times he's single-handedly helping guide Tranmere through games at the minute. I think he's that influential. But look, Cole Stockton scored, and Osama Ashley assured the points in the last 10 minutes or so. And just going off the stats alone, I mean, 27 shots. I mean, again, there's only so much you can say on stats, but 27 shots to Tranmere's 11. 53% possession, so 8 shots on target, 3 goals. I don't think you can really ask for much more, really. And Salford aren't doing too bad themselves at the minute. 3 wins from their last 5. I mean, they just drew with Cheltenham the other week, again, where their finishing was an issue. 26 shots, again, they were totally dominant in that game. And then, of course, they lost to Walsall the week before that, although they look like they lost to a better team in that one. But, I mean, Salford do impress me at the minute. And I still get the feeling that there is more to come, actually, especially with, how dominant that they can be in games. They're definitely getting bodies up and they're having loads of attempts on goal. There'll be times where it'll click even more. And once that happens, they could be a very good watch. And I certainly think they're one of the sides to look out for this year. I've always thought that, but how they've performed in a few of these games quite recently sort of confirms it in my mind at the minute.
Well, yeah, I think with Salford, they quite literally need to find their finishing touch. Like, what did you say, 27 shots over the course of the game for Salford? 18 of those were in the first half where there were no goals. I think they only had 4 on target in that time. Like, they can get into these positions really well. It's just they can't finish just yet. But I mean, to be honest, this game just as a whole was just utter chaos. Defending was a myth. It was just chance after chance after chance. I think for both teams, especially when it got to that second half. And I mean, well, one interesting thing I picked up was just the age of the keepers as well. But the age of both of those keepers combined was 82. It was a bit of a strange one. Neither team had their first choice keeper in goal. So for me, based on the level of the defending being poor, I would have liked to see more goals from both teams. It feels a bit weird saying that when it was 3-1. 4 goals is when you're watching as a neutral is a decent return, but it could have been quite a lot more. It's just those final third sort of troubles for both teams. Although, to be fair, Tranmere have still scored in every game they've played this season. It's just a little bit more of a concern that over the last 2 games they've now conceded 5. So they just need to shore things up a bit more defensively. They have the players to do that. I don't know. I can't quite place a finger on what's not working there for them over those last couple of games, but I appreciate they're playing teams that do have decent attacks. So maybe just a little bit of a blip, but an entertaining game. It's just quite a hard one to analyze, to be fair.
Yeah, kind of not a whole lot to add to it, to be honest with you. It looked a really good game. I think I had Salford to win it as a bit of a tight game, but it looked like they definitely deserved to win. 3-1 looked absolutely fair. I think they did quite a lot of their business late on in the window, Salford. I think they've managed to do quite well with limited numbers, and they've had quite a few players playing out of position, I believe. So I think, again, similar to the likes of Bristol Rovers and teams like that, I think they're just starting to. You might start seeing a bit more consistency from them. And again, like Udo coming in late, he's going to be good at this level. He'll score goals, absolutely. I think he'll be dangerous. So I think they are going to start getting better gradually, and I think you're going to see more consistency from them, certainly at home anyway. Doesn't make me think any less of Tranmere. I know they've not exactly been brilliant the last few games, but I think Andy Crosby is a good fit. I think it makes sense. I think Amari Patrick, to have a player like him, it could be the difference between a mid-table season and actually sneaking into the playoffs at the end, genuinely. And I'm not saying they will, but I think they're a big club. They've got a manager that gets it, who understands the fans, who understands how how he wants to play. I just think, as Luke said, I think it's just the last couple of games have gone off somewhere. But I just think for them, dust yourself off, move on to the next one. Could quite easily win the next game.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really have much more to say, really. I'm not really that concerned about Tranmere. Yes, the past couple of results are disappointing, especially last week, because with the defeat to Notts with them being 1 goal up in the game. There's always that element to it. But other than that, I don't think there's really anything to be concerned of this year. Yes, the goals, the 5 goals conceded are a little bit of a problem. But again, there's plenty of time to, there's a lot of credit in the bank. There's a lot of experience in that Tranmere squad. I think they will turn it around. And of course, it's probably worth noting, I think probably the only real big concern that Tranmere have is more for the fact that they'll be without Luke McGee for a long time. I think remember I saw Jack Walton in chat saying that yeah, we've got was it, how old is Joe Murphy? 44, is he? Or something like that. He's
it was something along
cracking
those
on a bit.
lines.
He's cracking on a bit. I think Tranmere brought in a goalkeeper on deadline day anyway. Because we was thinking about free agent goalkeepers that they could sign, and Jamal Blackman was a name that came up, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's I think his name's Jack Barrett. I think maybe it's a chance for him, but although Murphy did get the nod in this one, so I don't know. It depends what they want to do with that, but it's certainly a big loss. So I rate Luke McGee, actually. I think he's a top keeper, but it's not really much more to say. Salford deserved to win, looking at it, and yeah, I can only see them getting better. I think with the signings that they've made late, it's a lot made late. It's a lot of experience in that team. There's a lot of quality. I still think they're starting to watch out for this year, and they're really asserting their dominance on games. Let's take a break real quick because we need to do our Sky Bet fan feature. We didn't do one in the week because we were doing the transfer ranking video, transfer window ranking video at a stupid time in the morning. And I didn't really want to delay it any longer than that. I mean, we were doing it at 2:30. I mean, we were going to say that who has been the standout signing in the division, but we all just wanted bed, really. And considering that was the second recorded as well, after a I say minor thing that happened, which got me concerned. Anyway, you're not bothered anyway. Let's move. So basically, for our Sky Bet fan feature this week, I thought let's have a conversation, more just general, about what we think. We're football fans. We like to travel across the country. It's not always great. I mean, a few years ago, I've seen Grimsby win 2 away games in the season. For pretty much all of them, I did bar 1 or 2. I think I missed like 2 that year. I think I missed Gillingham was 1, and there was one other.
It's unfortunate. It's a great
holiday. I mean, yeah. Wanted to be a part of that scaffolding.
Yeah.
We'll start with you guys. I mean, just in terms of like best away grounds you've been to, whether like it's the size of the ground or the character of it, experience, or even something like that. I don't know. What sort of like your best ones? What sort of you look at the fixture list and you see who you've got and you're thinking, right, okay, I'm looking forward to visiting that team. Who are the clubs that you think that for?
Well, the thing with me is a lot of them are just based on location because as you guys will know from our podcast arranging chat or whatever, I love a London away day. So if your team is in London, I automatically like your ground just because it's there, and I can go on a bit of a pub crawl afterwards. But in terms of the ground itself, I don't even drink. I just enjoy the vibes. But no, in terms of the actual ground itself and the atmosphere that can be generated, it's actually I can't really look past Notts County. I mean, obviously as a location for a day out, it's pretty good anyway. But it's just one of those grounds you can feel the atmosphere, and it's just one that I kind of enjoy all around. I don't really know how else to sort of describe it as such. It's just a vibe I get from that place. But then personally, also I do also tend to be a fan of more modern grounds, probably because Stadium MK is pretty modern, certainly in comparison to a lot of around here. So a lot of the grounds, in League Two don't necessarily interest me that much. It's more based on locations, but I think Notts is probably one of the best in this division quite comfortably.
Yeah, fair point. I think for us, again, location is a bit of an issue because the vast majority of our away games are proper away games. The distances are ridiculous. I did Accrington for the first time this year, and I was actually quite impressed with their ground. It was a good little stadium, and they made quite a racket actually, which I wasn't expecting or anticipating. Probably incorrectly, but that impressed me. Swindon's always a fun one as Gillingham fans. I don't particularly like the stadium. I don't think its facilities are pretty awful, but it's always a bit of a fun away day. Not that we've been playing each other for anything recently. It's always been a bit of a mid-table thing. So if there was something riding on it, it'd be good fun. Bristol Rovers. It's unfortunate because Bristol Rovers and Barnet I've not been to. So Barnet have moved since I last went. Underhill was a great stadium. I loved that. It was proper old terrace sort of standing. It was a brilliant old football ground. And Bristol Rovers, I can't say that I liked it, but they've done an awful lot of work since I went. I went back in, I don't know, it was probably 2015 or 2016 or something. But that was a really just interesting ground. It had a lot of character to it. And they made a racket. It was actually when they were in non-league, I think. Darryl Clark was probably their manager, actually, thinking about it. But yeah, I think he was when they were in the league, and they made a good noise. So yeah, I'd probably have to say those. Oldham, I'll give a shout out to as well, because that's a proper football stadium, a proper football club. You can feel it when you go there. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, there's only 4 grounds I haven't done. And I've said this to you before you started recording, I haven't done Bromley. I'll be honest, it's not one it doesn't get the blood flowing. Truth be told. Oldham is a ground I haven't done, and it's just one that's just sort of escaped me, but it's one I'm really looking forward to doing this year, actually. Again, it's great to have them back in the league for that. Shrewsbury I haven't done. Yeah, I can't really say. It doesn't fill me with great excitement. I could be proved wrong. And which one's the other one? Bristol Rovers, that's it. Again, just one that I haven't done, although we have sort of avoided each other since 2015. So, to be fair, I don't mind that. I'm looking forward to doing that one as well, actually. I think in terms of the grounds I look at instantly, in terms of this league and this season, the one that always gets me excited is Notts County. I think location plays part of that. Yes, we've talked about it with, location's a bit of a killer for us, a bit like with Gillingham, and from the sounds of it, Harrogate's our closest away day this year, and I'm not really that fussed about them, to be honest, with the greatest respect. Notts County and Chesterfield are our next closest, but Notts County, Nottingham. I love Nottingham. I spent uni at Derby there, and to be fair, a lot of my time was actually spent in Nottingham. Hooters. You just mentioned Hooters. That's enough in a way. There's a great load of pubs. We normally take loads. We normally take loads to Meadow Lane. It's a great ground. Real class ground. There's some good supporters there. It's always an away day I look forward to. Most soulless MK Dons. It's not even an argument. After going yesterday, sort of reminded me. A lovely ground. If you want to look at it as that, but I can't imagine playing in that every week where you've got 25,000 empty seats. It just looks horrific. Absolutely horrific. Say what you want. Like I said, I've given you the praise on the ground. It is a lovely stadium. It is. It's just a bit too big.
For now.
I don't really know what others. I enjoy Salford. I'm looking forward to going back there in a few weeks. Not so much for what's around the ground, because there's not really anything. We normally do take a good following there. I'm looking forward to doing that again. But I'm looking forward to doing Barnet again in a couple of weeks. I think I might be doing it, and it's great to have them. We love Barnet away. We love London away. It is, but especially Barnet. We seem to always do something at Grimsby. There was one year in which we took a load of inflatables. They banned them one year, so a group of supporters hired a mariachi band that we took to them another year. That was great. So yeah, it's just great to have Barnet back. I'm just trying to think who else. I might have to let me have a quick look at the table.
Tell you what, if I'm talking specifically food, Harrogate wins without even a question. Harrogate's unreal.
I've seen their food looks good. I can't.
Really good. And I will just explain my really violent head shake at Shrewsbury. That is purely because the last time I went there, they beat us 7-0, and the memories are just not. They're horrific. I can't even think about it.
That's sort of the same with me, especially Swindon. We always get hammered there. I've seen us lose 5-0 at Swindon. So there's that. We always lose at Barrow. Again, it's not one I look forward to, really. Tranmere's decent. Accrington's quite underrated. I quite like Accrington. Doing it the other week. It's a pretty decent one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, Chesterfield's all right, but there's not really much around the ground, really. And it's just another local-ish one in which we normally take a view. Yeah, there's not really much more. Walsall, I don't particularly rate. Fleetwood it depends. It depends what you want to do with Fleetwood, I guess. We'll see with it being quite close to Blackpool. I mean, we've got them away on New Year's Day this year, so that could be an interesting one, actually. That could be a very, I don't know. I have to say on that one. Colchester, I hate. I don't like that one. Crawley, I don't like. Newport, I mean, I've been once and I can't remember it being that memorable, to be honest. I'm just going off on what I think, so please do not crucify me in the comments if you support these teams. It should probably be mentioned. Cambridge early did once in the FA Cup, and I can't remember it being that great, to be honest. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Crew's okay, nothing special, just okay. Yeah, Gillingham's okay, albeit that was a Tuesday night I went once and we lost in the 88th minute, I think. When the last time I went, and that was grim, to say the least. Right, let's get back to normal conversation instead of me discussing which games I hate going to because time get ditched. If I get hammered, I nearly said a naughty word then. That might have to be cut out.
This episode is brought to you by Sky Bet. You know the feeling. You've backed your striker to score. He's looking sharp and then disaster. He's pulled a hammy. Or worse, he's firing balls into the crowd rather than into the back of the net. A bit like Callum Patterson was doing for Dons against Walsall the other day. Now, if the manager pulls him off, normally that would be your bet done and dusted, but not with Sky Bet Super Sub, because if your player goes off, your bet carries over to the player that comes on in their place. So if Paul Warne was to pull off Callum Patterson and Aaron Collins took his place, you'd still be in with a shout. And right now, Sky Bet are giving you a £1 free bet to use on Build a Bet for the Premier League, backed by Super Sub. Sky Bet for the fans. T's and C's apply. Head to the Sky Bet app for details. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Let's go to the two unbeaten sides. Still unbeaten. After Bromley and Gillingham drew 2-2 yesterday. Bromley racing into a 2-goal lead thanks to Nicky Kabamba. Great finish from him. And Michael Cheek, of course, because you always trust him to bag a goal. Very quickly for Bromley. And Jill sort of got back into it. Josh Edwards to bring it back to 2-1. And then I've got to be honest, it is a controversial penalty that was given in which Max Clark converted to equal it up at 2-2 to ensure that both sides remain unbeaten and for Gillingham remaining top of the league in this one with Bromley down in 5th at the minute. But again, they're still unbeaten. Both have still made positive starts. I mean, Jack, we'll get your thoughts on this one first. I mean, from bringing it back to 2-2, 2-0 down, last minute equaliser from a penalty, I think you take that as an away fan, do you?
So listen, I would have taken a point before the game, irrespective. I was happy with that because Bromley, I mean, they embarrassed us last year twice. It was horrendous, especially at home. We set up pretty much exactly the same as we set up against Oldham. So the only change to the team was Bradley Dack came out the squad and Johnny Williams started in the 10. But I think Ainsworth didn't change it because he wanted to match Bromley up. And that very quickly looked like a bad decision because Bromley were just beating us every single duel all over the pitch. I know I mentioned it in our chat, but Andy Smith, bless him, he's had a bit of a shocker against Michael Cheek for both the goals. I am going to caveat that though quite heavily in that he's playing with Sam Gale as part of a 3, and Sam Gale only really came into the squad properly last season. So he's very inexperienced, brilliant, but very inexperienced. He didn't have his best game. And Robbie McKenzie's a central midfield player who plays very well wherever you put him. So Andy Smith really was our experienced, most recognised centre half. So he was kind of leading that back line at the same time. There were 2 or 3 others that didn't have their best games in that first half, and that was really the difference. Bromley were 2v1 out wide every single time they got the ball and came forward. The first goal was an amazing finish, to be fair. I don't think, all right, Smith's let Cheek get the flick on. I think Mackenzie's actually done the right thing because it put Kabamba on his weaker foot, but it was just a good finish. Like, what do you do? Second goal was frustrating. Odeteo was able to run 3/4 of the pitch without anybody anywhere near him. And while the cross was delightful, it was just one of those goals. It was really frustrating to watch as a fan. And it was also early that we were kind of thinking, oh God, this is like exactly like last season again. We're just going to get battered by Bromley for the 3rd game running. But what I would also say with the first half, even though Bromley were by far the better side, Josh Andrews misses a 1-on-1. Elliot Nevitt goes through with a clear goal and hits it. It goes straight out, it goes over the bar. We should have had a penalty in the first half. I'm caveating all of it. I'm putting it down to the football gods. We'll get onto the penalty in a minute, but we should have had a penalty in the first half. Andy Smith had his shirt ripped off him pretty much from a set piece, right in front of the goalkeeper, but wasn't to be. Ainsworth didn't change anything at half time, which everybody was chatting in the away end were very worried about, because we thought, crikey, after watching that, we really thought we needed to change shape, change personnel. We had Johnny Smith, who came in, sat on the bench. Gareth McCleary sat on the bench. Sam Vokes sat on the bench. Aaron Rowe sat on the bench, but didn't make a change. Actually came out a different animal, in my opinion. I think second half we actually looked really good, and we started winning the battles against Bromley. Elliot Nevitt, before the goal, Elliot Nevitt has a really good header. Unfortunately, it went to grass with nothing else he could do, but it was a good header and it was a good save. Josh Andrews has a sort of a free header and it goes wide. It looked worse in person than it actually looked on the telly, I'll have to say. And as the long throw is being prepped to be taken, Gareth Ainsworth's got all 5 substitutes stripped and ready to come on in the, whatever it was, 55th minute. Throw comes in. Josh Andrews does so well to get away from Suwamni. It was really clever, and it was a great header. I sort of had it as a bit of a flick on when we were there watching it, but watching it back, it was a really good piece of play, actually, a really good header. And fair play, I'm over the moon for him, because he's had a bit of a torrid 18 months with us. And the start of this season, he's looked really good. He's looking like a proper battering ram, target man for League Two, and I'm just desperate for him to start scoring some goals. So as soon as the goal goes in, Ainsworth sits down 4 of the substitutes. Nelson Kambeni comes on to replace Ethan Coleman, who I believe was injured. I missed him getting injured, but he hurt himself. So Nelson Kambeni comes on, and then after that, we're sort of knocking on the door. Nothing really going on. Gareth Ainsworth makes the changes. Vokes, Rowe, Johnny Smith, Gareth McCleary come on. We go to a 4-4-2 at one point. We go to a 4-2-3-1 at one point. It really disrupted our rhythm. We kind of stopped. We stopped being able to hurt Bromley, and they controlled it for about 20 minutes. I think I wasn't counting, but it felt like there was about 50 throw-ins in the space of about 20 minutes. It was just one of those balls getting hoofed up, coming back, hoofed up, coming back. It was difficult. And then comes the penalty. Clearly, that's not a penalty. I'll put my hands up. Actually, if anything, I think McCleary probably fouls the goalkeeper, because have you seen the pictures of Grant Smith's head at the end of the game?
Yeah.
To me, that's we've got away with one there. You can't deny it, but it's the 98th minute. The unbeaten runs on the line. The unbeaten records on the line. Grant Smith's getting treatment for about what felt like half an hour, but it was probably, I don't know, 5-6 minutes. That's an awful lot of pressure on Max Clark to step up and take a penalty and score it. You've still got to score the thing, whether you get it in the 98th minute or the 5th. You've still got to step up and you've got to score it. And I think it was a good penalty. Both sides could have had 4 or 5. I know Bromley had a couple of really good opportunities in the second half, but that was more because we were just trying our best to get the ball down our end of the pitch and we were caught out. Look, Bromley are the best side I've watched this season as far as being strong, knowing what they're good at, and being tactically well drilled. Every single player knew exactly what they had to do, and I think Andy Woodman had them set up knowing exactly how to hurt us. They'd worked on it. They knew what to do. But we'll move away with a point. I do think we deserve the point. Whether I know most other fans probably don't, but I do think we deserve the point in the end. Look, when you've been watching what we've been watching for the last couple of years, whenever we've gone 1-0 down in a game of football, we've not been able to score a goal or come back and win the thing. For us to come back from 2-0 down at a place like Bromley in the way that we did is incredible. And what Gareth Ainsworth has done with a group of players that last season, to be quite frank, by about December, we were all calling for a complete squad overhaul, everybody out. What he's done with that squad is incredible. It's great for us to be able to go to a match and be proud to watch a team of players run through brick walls for each other, and for the manager and for the fans. The connection's brilliant. I just think Ainsworth gets Gillingham Football Club. He understands the fan base. He knows what we want to watch. So whilst you can quite rightly say that there are some games where we're probably getting a bit lucky and picking points up, it's not luck that's come from nowhere. We're making it, in my opinion. So yeah, it was a good game. I can see why Bromley will be fuming. I get it, but we're all going to be on the wrong end of those throughout the season. So it's just one of those things. Looking forward to playing them at Priestfield, because I think Andy Woodman and Gareth Ainsworth were having a bit of a ding dong on the touchline throughout the game, so that was interesting. But it was good. It was good.
What do you take away from that, Luke?
I mean, it did look like a really entertaining game, to be fair. And I think it says a lot when Gareth Ainsworth says that you're the best battlers in the division. I've never seen a side out Ainsworth and Ainsworth side like.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and we've not seen anybody get close to us with that throughout the season. And I dare say that's why he matched up, because I just think he thought we'd be quite comfortable in that environment and in that kind of a game. But they were brutal. Kabamba and Sheik up front are going to give most teams a bit of a horrid time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, Kabamba's already on 4 for the season. I mean, I kind of expressed my surprise beforehand when we were looking at the top scorers before we started recording. And now you've got Cheek amongst the goals as well. I mean, that first goal, absolutely quality. I love that little turn and finish. I think the defending for both the headed goals, I know Bromley had one and Gillingham had one. I think defending on both of those pretty poor, but still well taken headers. Obviously, you touched on the penalty. It's not a penalty. McCleary has absolutely fouled. Fouled him. Yeah. We'll blame Wickham for his ways on that one. You can imagine I'm not particularly a fan of him.
You've blame Ainsworth, haven't you? If you blame anyone,
they're both at Wickham. So
folks McCleary and Ainsworth are giving you a headache, are they?
Oh dear, that just takes me back to League One playoffs a few seasons ago. I don't want to talk about it.
Let's talk about playoffs. Let's talk about the League One playoffs.
No,
I mentioned a League 2 one against Crawley as well, because that was a great watch.
Do we have to? Like, we've been in the playoffs 6 times. We've never got past the semis. Enough said. Thank you. But no, coming back to this game, I mean, it was entertaining from both sides. Plenty of chances, as you say, at both ends of the pitch. Obviously, from a Bromley perspective, it's going to be a little bit disappointing that they didn't take one of those ones whilst they're 2-0 up. But, easy to say that with hindsight, because defending a 2-0 lead, it's cliche to say it's a dangerous scoreline, but it's also quite a solid one. You've got a little bit of a safety net there as well. But absolutely fair play to Gillingham for fighting back the way they did. Again, I don't think there are too many sides that could come back against a side like Bromley with the way they defend and the way they set up and how physical they are. And yes, there's an element of luck with the penalty, but you've got to put yourselves in the right positions, take the right risks, and all the rest of it. And what's that? 19 games now? Is it on the unbeaten run? It's
20. Thank you.
20.
We're
okay.
Yeah, we're claiming that. All comps. Yeah.
One by one. I mean, it's obviously a strong performance. I know you weren't particularly happy with that first half, but I'd say aside from this game, I am starting to wonder if the performances are maybe faltering a little bit, even though the results are still coming through. it'll be interesting to see mentally what that does, because chances are you're not going unbeaten for the whole season.
I would
It'll be
doubt it.
interesting.
I would
Yeah.
doubt it pretty strongly. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens when you do eventually lose one, what that does to the mentality of the team.
Well, and again, the vast majority of the squad that we've got have been involved in the last 2 years. And I remember very clearly last season, Jordan, when Grimsby came to Gillingham, and we'd started phenomenally well, and Kieran Green ruined our entire season. I blame him entirely. But
Agreed.
like, they've been they've all been part of it. So they've lived it and they've experienced it. But the difference is now, I believe, is the management team that we've got. The structure is a completely different thing. I won't get into that. It's not a Gillingham podcast, but yeah, it is, and I can completely understand why everybody looking from the outside in would look at it and go, "You're outperforming XG, you're outperforming your stats. You shouldn't be where you are." But the table doesn't lie. You don't luck 20 games. It's not a thing. It doesn't happen. So yeah, we'll continue to go. We've got Notts on Saturday. I feel confident against Notts. Whether I should or shouldn't is another question, but I feel confident at home against Notts County at the moment. So it won't last. It won't last forever, but I think we're in a really, really good place.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you said there entirely. Yeah, you don't go 20 games unbeaten if you haven't got something about you for me.
No.
And I don't really have much more to say on it, really. Yeah, full credit to coming back in the game. I know you mentioned the fact that when Gillingham go 1-0 down, the past couple of years, you might as well just pack your bags and go home then.
Honestly, it was just always, and it was a similar. It's kind of why I'm talking about Newport earlier on in the way that I am. It's just like you know how it feels. Like you can see the goal, and it's like edge drop because you just got everybody knows, the fans know, the manager knows, the players know. It's just not, you're not going to come back. But now that's gone, absolutely gone.
It's those sort of things in which I sort of feel the same, because last year we were working towards like certain targets that we had like the previous season. In mainly terms, right? Okay, you scored 4 goals this season in a game. That's already a big plus. You've come back from 2-0 down to rescue a point in there. That's a big plus. It was similar to last year. We took we'll move on in a minute, but I took Doncaster as a good example. Every time we've played them, one of the first times we got hammered. We got hammered 5-1. The next time we lost 3-0. Yes, we still lost the game, but there was improvement in the scoreline, albeit I couldn't have imagined us losing 5-1 again. And then the next time we played them, we went and beat them 2-1. So it's just little things like that. It's just gradual improvement. I think even yesterday as well, I know that I'm sort of going back to our game a little bit. David Artell's game was the first game in charge was at MK Dons. And you see the difference in there, just under 2 years of what he's been charged there. Completely different. It's just completely chalk and cheese from what it has done. So yeah, yeah, but you're doing all right. You're doing all right.
We're doing all right. Exactly that. We're doing all right. We're doing all right.
Not really much more to say about it. I think, yeah, if you are Bromley, I get you do feel probably a little bit aggrieved about it, and you can certainly hear that in Andy Woodman. But
yeah,
especially with referees nowadays as well. At the minute, it just feels like you win some, you lose some. Unfortunately,
you do. It's League Two. It's exactly how it works. Unfortunately for everybody, again, they got away with one in the first half. If that's the way that we're going to go with it, it's just how it works. We'll all feel it. They'll get a dodgy one next week, and all of a sudden they'll have forgotten about it. That's just how it works.
And Luke will probably get another dodgy one, and he'll cry in his sleep again. Let's move on. Got a couple more games to look at. Let's talk about Shrewsbury. They won their first game. It's been, I say it's been a long time coming, but I don't even think it has been. I was more questioning whether it would come more than anything. But they've gone to Barnet and they've picked up a 3-1 win, and 2 of the goals seem to happen in very quick succession. I mean, Mark Shelton put Barnet a goal up, and literally, seconds later, is in the back of their net for 1-1 through an own goal. It was a bit of a mess. I've also noticed Dean Brennan was red carded in that one, which it was going to happen sooner rather than later. We know how much of a bit of a character he is.
He's done quite well, actually, I think.
I was going to say, the fact it's taken him this long for what he has. I mean, Unless you probably you take something out of Paul Cook's book. I think I've read something that he's got like 6 bookings in like the 7 or 8 games or something, daft like that. I could be wrong there, but that was something. Bradley, the new signing. I need to start pronouncing his last name, but he scored to make it 2-1. And Sam Clucas, cross or shot, you can debate. Look to Malt is certainly cross for me to make it 3-1, and it's that sort of how it stayed. Barnet, a lot of possession, as you'd expect again, but it's a much needed away win for Shrewsbury, and one in which they'll be delighted with as well, actually.
Oh yeah, they will be, and it's a fantastic reaction from going 1 down in the first place, which, from Barnet perspective, very disappointing. They held that lead for a minute. That was about it. And don't get me wrong, defensively, Barnet were total shambles, but credit to Shrewsbury, they, I think this is probably their strongest performance of the season so far. Well, most likely. Obviously it's the first win, so. But they took advantage, and they probably should have scored more from the chances they had, really, as well. It was a well controlled performance. They didn't have much of the ball, but they didn't need much of the ball. When they had it, they made it count. It wasn't just possession for possession's sake, which is what it felt like on the Barnet side of things. And as someone that spent a lot of time watching Mike Williamson's teams play, I can tell you that's probably what Barnet were doing. But defensively, I've got to come back to Barnet on that front. The own goal was, it was a comical one. It was poor, totally needless. And then even just for the second goal as well,
yeah, I thought the goalkeeper
carried it directly to the striker. Like, come on, what are we doing?
For the second,
it was so easily preventable. It was just self-destruct button almost. With Barnet, they really need to figure that one out, because they keep having these dodgy goals that they concede. That's the only way you can really put it. It's like they're not normal goals they're conceding. They're really, really poor ones. Even by a League Two standard. But no, like I said, credit to Shrewsbury. This has been easily their best game of the season so far, and it gives them a platform they can now build on.
Yeah, completely agree. I think so. Thursday last week was the first podcast I've ever done, and I'm already, I think, having to do an apology. Is that a record of some description? Because I absolutely
may well be.
went in on Shrewsbury and Michael Appleton on Thursday, and of course they win 3-1 at the weekend. In all seriousness, I'm actually really happy for them, because it was only 2-3 years ago that we came down from League One, and double relegation looked like it was happening, like there was no way out. And I have a feeling that's how Shrewsbury fans have felt probably at the start of the season. So for them to get, a 3-1 away win, but any win would feel amazing. A 3-1 away win, they're going to be on top of the world, and they should enjoy it. And I hope for the players and the manager, but more importantly the fans, I do hope it gives them a lift, because it's an awful position to be in. It really is. Saw it, obviously it was 1-1 really early. I think we were travelling and bits and pieces, so I didn't see it from the beginning, but obviously saw it was 1-1. Barnet had scored, then they got one back like really quickly, and I thought, well, that's a positive. Didn't have them going and winning the game 3-1 though, and from the looks of it, they could have won it 4 or 5-1. Based on, I think, Bradley Ihonvian, he's missed a pretty good chance. At the same time, I'm guessing, I'm hoping, and if it isn't, I apologise, but I think that's it.
Right.
But exactly like you said, Luke, and Walsall Chesterfield comes later, but there's too many teams holding on to the ball for too long for me. Again, I support Gillingham. We're very synonymous with a very specific style of football. I understand that, but there's too many teams hanging on to the ball and not doing enough with it. The 3 at the back definitely looks like it suits Shrewsbury more than that 4 they played at Notts County. I think it definitely suits what they have. And the new players that have come in have settled in incredibly well. Ihonvian, he scored what he got. I think he's 2-2 now, because he scored in the Virtue Trophy. I can't remember who they were playing. I think it was Chelsea's under-21s, but he scored it in the Virtue Trophy. Scores again in the league. I think they're trying to give that own goal to him, which is insane. Like, it's clearly an own goal. I get it. I would as well, but no way, it's an own goal. But he's got 2-2. Cabia, who they've got in from Arsenal, based on highlights, but he looks like a threat. He looked quick. He looked really quick. Yeah, and for Barnet, I think, as Luke alluded to, it'd be frustrating because I think that's a game that you look at. They've just started to improve. It looked like the squad gelling issues and the maybe nerves coming back into the Football League. I don't know. It looked like that had kind of gone away a bit. And I would imagine that everybody at Barnet probably looked at Shrewsbury at home and would have gone, yeah, that's another 3 points, because you look at how Shrewsbury have started. So I feel like they're going to be really disappointed with that. Not worried about Barnet because I do think they'll improve. I think Dean Brennan's very good. So yeah, it's not a concern. I just don't think they're going to be the dark horses that some people might have had them as based on this start. And again, for Shrewsbury, I just hope, next week, don't lose the game. Even if it's a draw, just keep the good feeling going. Make it a horrible 0-0 if you have to. Just keep the rhythm going, because that it will save them. It's crazy how quick it can change. So I hope they do.
Yeah, absolutely, and it will do them the world of good. I know they've got a difficult
Yeah.
game with Salford next week.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That's a tricky game in itself because they're doing
Yeah.
well at the minute. But yeah, if they can just get something out of that, maybe putting a half decent performance in like they did yesterday, and try and get something from the game. I totally agree. It could do them the world of good, and it could really give them the confidence to go and maybe put this start that they have behind them and really build on it. As for Barnet, I can't. Yeah, I'm in total agreement. It just does feel like they're hitting the self-destruct button. I was speaking to a mate. He went to the game yesterday, just as a neutral, and he was pretty much under the same impression. Any other team, look, I mean, take nothing away from Shrewsbury, they'll be on cloud nine from that, and obviously for the fans, that was a long time coming for them. It'd have been, I'd imagine it was a much better trip home for sure. But I think he said that, if it was a better team, with the greatest respect, Barnet would have been battered in that game. They said maybe even a Grimsby, maybe because he knew that I support the club, but maybe a club like that, they'd tear them apart. I think the goals. The goals are comical, aren't they? That first one, in particular, you're most vulnerable when you've scored, aren't you? Let's be honest. And it's just straight from kickoff. And you're kicking yourselves for it as well, and it just didn't look like they had. It sort of shocked them a little bit, and that's what I feel like, and that played its part. I'm confused with Barnet because there's some clearly talented players there. Yes, they start the season quite slow. Had a few good results. Maybe started to pick up a little bit, started to gel. I know they're putting a lot of new players, and they just seem to have sort of, I feel like, moments of madness. That's what I sort of get with them at the minute. And that's just sort of where they are. They've conceded, 10 goals now, which is not great. Ideally, it's not the worst in the world. Shrewsbury have conceded 13, but it's also not great. And throughout their dominance, you see them having a lot of the ball. I feel like again trying to overplay it maybe at times. I think maybe these past few games have, this start to the season has maybe been the reality check that maybe some needed. Not just maybe, but maybe some neutrals as well. That I don't know. There's still a long time to rectify that. Totally. There's some good players in that squad. There's some good quality. But yeah, it's a really poor one. It's a really poor defeat against a side in which, let's be honest, confidence was on the floor. From all angles, basically, in terms of the squad and from what's happening upstairs at their place. It's certainly a frustrating one. Certainly. And they've really got to sort it out. There's not really much more to say. And again, they've got some tough games coming up. Crewe and Grimsby there next too. So you mentioned Grimsby. We get to see that in a couple of weeks. Crewe start the season quite well as well. So there's two tricky games, but we'll see how they get on there. Great win for Shrews though. Take nothing away. I know we've talked about them. I've criticised them to death. So hopefully that would have certainly some crumbs of comfort, so to speak. Certainly, a little bit of joy in what has been a terrible, few weeks. Terrible period. Look, they had last year in League One. They were terrible.
It's been a shocking. It's been a shocking time for them, and I don't. The Ainsworth thing is obviously that hurt them last year, and I get it. Like there's just been so many dominoes that keep falling, that keep giving those fans a torrid time. So yeah, enjoy it, crack on, don't lose next week.
Yeah, Exactly. Let's move on to the final game, which we picked out. It's a repeat of last season's playoffs. The fact it was still went to playoffs is mad, considering Walsall's bottle. Of course, we've got to be reminded of that quite regularly. They played Chesterfield and they picked up a 1-0 victory at home. Daniel Carnu getting the goal in that one. It was a very good goal as well. The way he sort of won it back, had to take on his man a little bit. It's a lovely finish into the corner. I mean, Walsall did finish the game with 10 men with Charlie Lakin's red card. I think one thing that instantly gets me, it looked like a relatively tight game in terms of shots, a game in which Chesterfield have dominated possession, 74% of it. I think the glaring thing is about it, 9 shots for Chesterfield, 0 on target, and they missed a couple of zitters. I mean, there was one header, I think, right in the second half, and there's just a clip of Aidan Flint laughing, which was great. Of course, he knows his roots with him being at Mansfield. I mean, look, Walsall had 7 shots in the game as well, 2 on target in there, but they've got that goal. And I think I'm right in saying that's 3 straight 1-0 wins for them in the league. Yes, because they went to Stadium MK last week and picked up that 1-0 win. And they also beat Salford by 1-0 last week. And if we're going to continue with themes of 1-0s as well, they even lost their last game after that, or before that 1-0, losing to Grimsby. So not a lot of goals in their games, but look, 3 wins in a row, 3 clean sheets, limited Chesterfield to not that much. Again, it was just a side. Just feels like a side they were happy to have a lot of the ball, and great finish from Carnu, and they picked up 3 points at the end of it. And Walsall are a side actually that started the season relatively well. 5 wins from their first 7 games with 2 defeats in that time as well. Been a good start.
It's a decent start, to be fair. I'd say, especially from a defensive point of view. I think they've conceded least goals in the league. I think they do maybe ride their luck a little bit at times. As you say, Chesterfield did miss a couple of easier ones, and I know we certainly missed a lot of easy ones last week as well. But no, I think credit to them for the way they set up, and the tactics they have are perfect for dealing with teams that like to have the ball. That they're more than happy to soak up a little bit of pressure, because as soon as they get the ball, they're flying up the other end of the pitch with 6 or 7 players. It's a very effective counter-attacking sort of method, and I think. Well, I'll cover the goal a little bit, because I'll be honest, from a Chesterfield point of view, it did annoy me quite a bit. McFadzean and Dunkley, in my opinion, are 2 of the best centre-backs in the division. And from those 2. McFadzean backed out of the challenge. He totally backed out of that needlessly. And then Dunkley just decides he doesn't need to close the man down. And I think that's the 9th goal Chesterfield have conceded now. They're 5 games in a row in the league without a clean sheet. It's not great, and especially when they're not necessarily being as clinical up front as I'd expect them to be. Obviously, we said they're 9 shots, 0 on target, and they have still scored 11 goals. But my point is, from the chances they've created across all the games so far this season, they should have scored a lot more than that. They've created some meaningful chances, but they just don't finish them off. It's quite a frustrating thing to see. And of course, now I've said that, we play them next, so you know what's happening. We're about to lose like 5-0 or something. But no, put it this way: if they were to play the way they did against Walsall, I'd be feeling relatively confident. They have some serious problems there. I think defensively, I mean, obviously, I've mentioned my thoughts on McFadzean and Dunkley and how strong they are. I almost wonder if they're too similar. Maybe it feels like there's certainly something missing from that back line. I think that's holding them back a little bit. At the minute they're kind of following the same method as Swindon, as we'll just score more goals than you. But at the minute they're not necessarily scoring more goals than teams that much. I know that there's only one result of difference between those 2 teams, but if you're looking from a longer term perspective, I have more of those concerns around Chesterfield than I would around Swindon.
Yeah. So I think I don't know. Chesterfield's a really weird one for me. But based on what I've seen of that back four, I don't think that back four is a promotion winning back four. Whether that's top three or whether that's playoffs, certainly not playoffs. I think they will score a lot of goals against a lot of teams, but when you're looking at the three teams that are currently sat in the top seven, so you've got Gillingham, Bromley, Walsall. Take those three. They're really going to struggle against those sorts of teams. They don't. They have. What did they have? 70% of the ball or something against Walsall. Did absolutely nothing with it. Appreciate they had a couple of half chances or whatever. But Charlie Lakin gets sent off in the first half, and it still didn't make a difference. It didn't help them open Walsall up in any way. When you look at the names, you've got Dobra, Darcy, Markande behind Lee Bonis, right? Lee Bonis has had a relatively good start. I don't know that much about him because he's not played a lot of EFL football, but the three behind, they're three very good players for League Two. I just think the back four are going to let them down. I really do. I think when the back four can't keep clean sheets, and the front line are struggling to break down teams that are well structured, and know what they're doing at the back. I can't see it. I can't see them. I can't see them getting promoted. I think unless it's top three, they're going to be in League Two again next year, because teams in the playoffs will just shut them out for 2 games. That's my opinion. I think Dunkley and the Fads and I think they get bullied far too easily. Again, I'm going by the game that we played against them. We beat them 4-1, obviously, but based on what Bromley did against Josh Andrews yesterday, and I actually think Josh Andrews had a pretty good game as far as sort of dueling and battling. He absolutely took the mick out of them at our place. And I dare say Aaron Presley did the same thing to them yesterday. I would imagine Daniel Carnew's got pace to burn. I don't like the back four. I don't think it's a promotion winning back four, and I think they're going to struggle to score against teams that know what they're doing at the back. It's as simple as that for me, really. I mean, things with Chesterfield though, they will score a lot of goals and they'll beat a lot of teams. They will be in the playoffs region by December, and in January they've got the facilities there to be able to bring a centre back or two in. I dare say in January if they need to make a push to try and improve, but. Yeah. The other thing, I mean, Walsall seem to keep winning when they go down to 10 men at home. So I don't know whether Matt Sadler's just like telling one of them to stick the studs in somewhere eventually if they're having a bit of a shocker. It might be a Matt Sadler masterclass. But yeah, I don't know. I think, but just talking on Walsall very briefly, I see a lot of similarities with Walsall to us. A lot of 1-0s, a lot of ground out results. I think the Bescott's going to be an awful place for teams to go and try and get a result this year. It doesn't matter whether it's possession hungry Chesterfield or a team like us or Bromley. It's going to be a horrible place to go. So fair play to them. Start the season well, but yeah,
Been there, done that. It's all right, easy. But no, what I would say, I'd probably say Walsall probably been the closest team that we played in terms. Well, probably the best team we played so far in that regard. That's what I would say about them.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, there's not really much more to add to it. Let's go through the other results from the other games real quick, and we'll wrap it up after that. So Swindon went to Barrow and picked up a 3-1 win, another 3 goals for Swindon. Aaron Drinan looks like a man in form at the minute. Paul Glatzel and Princewell, long name. I'm not even going to bother. Rushing into a 3-0 lead in that one. Lewis Shipley bringing the goal back. That third goal, again, am I watching Swindon or Barcelona? I think with some of the goals that they're scoring at the minute, some of the football that they're playing are a joy to watch at the minute. And that's what they do. They've got the quality to really hurt teams. And I don't know. I'm not sold on Barrow at all. Yes, a couple of tough games in there, but I don't know. I don't think it's not getting any easier. Bristol Rovers and Crewe to come in their next couple. Oldham, they got their first win of the season, just the 1-0 win away from home. They went to Cambridge. Michael Mellon in the 21st minute on debut with the goal for that one. I mean, we were talking about the other week how Oldham needed really a striker because they couldn't hit a barn door. Michael Mellon, I think, could be a very good addition, of course, with his dad. If you want to, again, really want to mention it, I'm going to try and not mention this, or we're going to try and not mention this too much this year. But he was just there to prod home. in that one. And it felt like a long time coming for Oldham as well. Good away win, away their side that started all right in Cambridge. They'll be delighted with that. Cheltenham will be delighted. A 1-0 home win against Accrington Stanley, and a brilliant free kick from Isaac Hutchinson 2 minutes into the game. Already in the grand scheme of things, that feels like a massive win already. It certainly lifts the weight off Cheltenham a little bit. Accrington, I don't really know. I've seen a lot of stuff from them. Yes, they played a game less, but maybe, I don't know, maybe this year might be different. Those are sort of games you've got to be at least taking points off if you're not going to win it. And they haven't done that. Cheltenham have started really poor as well, but they'll be delighted with that yesterday. And maybe another team with their start, it's nice for them to get 3 points and be delighted about a win for a change. Crewe drew 1-1 with Colchester. Colchester being at home in this one. Another goal for Josh March. I think you do got to look at the goalkeeping for Matt Macy, I think, on that one. Kyrie Slisby with the equaliser coming off the bench. Colchester probably did enough to win the game. They looked like the better team throughout. Couldn't quite find that second goal to win the game. But I feel like it's maybe coming. But again, ultimately it's more drop points for Colchester. I feel like if they're going to be playing like that, I think their luck will turn sooner rather than pick up a few more wins, maybe. And maybe what they certainly want. It feels like it was the weekend of teams winning their first game of the season. Crawley have done that. They've gone to Harrogate and picked up a 1-0 win. Reece Brown with the goal. Very nice goal, actually. Thought he hit it really well. Crawley finishing the game with 10 men. Ryan Loft recorded. I'm just going to say no more than that. Another defeat for Harrogate. Really disappointed for them. Notts County, their game did go ahead against Fleetwood. Obviously with the that fungal disease in which their pitch has had. It looked a right state looking at it, but they're working on it. But they did pick up a 1-0 win at home. And of course, Matt Dennis in amongst the goals again. He's on fire at the moment. He was the difference in that one. And I believe that's every game. Yeah, they're the only other games. Quick thoughts on them before we wrap up.
Just a few random points to make. Swindon getting in a very good habit of just doing the damage early. They're scoring a lot of first half goals at the minute, and I think that's what's making them so effective. They're just getting ahead and then holding that lead. But for Barrow, I think they just really need a win soon. Just for the sake of confidence, but it's not going to be easy for them. I think they've got Bristol Rovers and Crewe next, so quite a tricky run. But I think they're down in 19th at the minute, so they really just need a bit of a pick me up. As you mentioned, Mellon got the goal for Oldham. They finally got their win. I am just going to point out that Kane Drummond missed another 1-on-1, and I don't know how he's not scored yet this season. How? Can you please just score a goal so we can stop
ban him from shooting at this stage.
He's had too many chances. I don't understand how he's not scored yet. Good win for them. I do think Cambridge have had, although they were up until that point, they were unbeaten at home. They haven't necessarily looked the most convincing in those games. So, I think it's a good win for Oldham, that one. And then the only other thing I was going to mention was the Colchester Crewe game. I think it was relatively even in that first half, but second half, all Colchester. Really impressive performance from them. Just a shame they couldn't quite finish it off. I know there's been this another good chance. I know he got the goal, but he missed another one that could have won the game for him. And then Crewe's keeper Tom Booth made a decent save to deny Jane Williams as well. So, it was that was quite an interesting game. There were so many good games this week. We genuinely could have covered so many of them. But I'll leave it at that because I could keep going for a while.
I won't add too much. Barrow, Swindon. What I will say with Barrow, I've got no idea how they don't score. I think Tyler Walker and Josh Gordon both miss from, Tyler Walker, he just couldn't get his toe on it, and Gordon's missed from really close in. So Yeah, confidence with them. Swindon looked brilliant. Drinnan's absolutely on fire. He's already scored as many this season as he did last, I think. I appreciate last season was injured a lot, but fan favourite and banging goals in. I think that's something to watch out for. Their depth is ridiculous as well, Swindon. So yeah, they're flying. Cheltenham Accrington, really pleased for Cheltenham. Hutchinson, I think it's just that bit of quality that Cheltenham were missing and Accrington are missing. I think that's literally the difference between the two sides. Just a good player. Harrogate Crawley, really interesting game. Scott Lindsay obviously just making something happen that probably nobody would have predicted was going to happen. I think everybody was looking at a draw or a Harrogate win, but fair play to them. And say Doug Loft is on his Ryan Loft on his debut. Blimey. But just want to give Oldham a bit of props because, pleased for them. I think, as I said, they look very good against us. They had everything except a goal in them. Fair play to them. Good stuff.
Lovely stuff. We'll wrap up there then. It's been an interesting weekend. Like I said, I think we could have picked a couple more games if we wanted to. We could have. I think there was a few shots. We were having polls on a couple of them, which we should do. So it was generally tight, but this is League Two football for you. Of course, let's do the usual stuff. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Comment your thoughts on the weekend. We really do want to know what you think and on what you think of us, good or bad, whatever you want. Mainly bad in Luke's case.
I look forward to reading the comments.
If you could just put up the Mariners towards Luke's direction, that would be grand. Of course, download the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. And of course, thank you to Skybet once again for sponsoring this podcast. We do appreciate all the support and we appreciate all your support as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Luke, go and cry into your fish and chips, son. Up the Mariners. We'll see you next time.
Thanks once again to our partners of this episode, Skybet. Skybet understands the beautiful chaos of being a football fan. The highs, the lows, the heartache and the glory. It's all part of the ride. And we wouldn't trade it for anything. Not for everyone, for the fans. Skybet, 18+, gambleaware.org.